And welcome back to Wandering Through Wayne's World. I am Wayne, and you're watching WRPBI TV. With me is Lea Liberman from Liberman & Associates, PA, and you are a CPA?
I'm a CPA, yes.
Okay, so here's the deal, guys. You're an entrepreneur, you run a business, you make money, it's fun, until you have to do the numbers, until you have to do your taxes, until you have to do your P&L, and until you're getting ready to either sell the business or figure out what the business is doing. So, in your business, you're the expert, and when people come to you, you want them to come to you because you're the expert and you're going to show them. In Lea's business, you're the expert.
Yes.
And they come to you to get the answers. And those are number answers.
Correct.
How did you get into being a CPA and why?
Well, I always liked numbers.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it was just adding and subtracting. But it's something that I always like to do. I'm a very detail-oriented person, so I felt it was the perfect fit for me. I enjoy...
No division?
Yes, every once in a while, but with calculators, it's all the same.
Yeah, well, when I was in school, no calculators, okay? And division was really and I loved math, but division was down for. Okay.
But when I took the CPA exam, there were no calculators.
Okay.
There are now.
Right. All right, so now I have to ask you this. There is an accountant and there is a CPA.
Right.
What is the difference besides the word certified?
Well, CPAs have gone through a rigorous exam. The CPA exam, when I took it, was 2.5 days of testing, paper and pencil. Now it is on the computer. You can take one section at a time. But I was one of those few people that actually passed the entire exam at one sitting.
Wow.
Which is about 10% of the population. So it is a very hard test, and it really differentiates an accountant from a CPA.
Who needs the CPA and who needs the accountant?
Well, anybody who has their own business should really have a CPA to make sure they take all available deductions, that their forms are filled out correctly. You want to minimize any interaction with the IRS that's unnecessary. And sometimes when people try to fill out the forms themselves, they overlook forms that need to be filed, or maybe they're filed incorrectly. So you want to make sure you have a CPA to make everything done properly. If you're just an employee for a company, you're getting a W-2, you maybe have some itemized deductions, you can use an accountant, you could even do it yourself. It's pretty much black and white, there's not much to it.
Okay, so I start a business. When do I call the CPA?
You want to call a CPA before you start your business so that they can discuss what type of entity you want to be, whether it's a partnership, an S corporation, sole proprietor. You have choices to make before you even open your bank account. So when you're thinking about opening a business is when you want to contact a CPA so you get off on the right foot.
And I have to state my opinion there. And my opinion is, if you don't do that, then a year down the road, when you decide you want to get a CPA or an accountant, whatever, it is probably double the amount of work.
Maybe not double, but there's some things that you can't change, or you can't change easily after the fact.
Okay.
So it's much easier to get started on the right foot to try to fix things later on.
Right, and we talk about when I started this company, if I inputted everybody's information from day one, I would just be keeping up.
Right.
Now, since I waited, I'm catching up. And that's a major difference because it's more time consuming, and finding information and stuff is much more difficult. Okay.
Well, you also want to make sure that you keep proper books and records. So if you come to a CPA in the beginning, they can explain to you how to keep the records, perhaps what software would be beneficial for your industry. There's different products on there depending on how big you think your company is going to be. So there are choices you want to make up front because you don't want to have to do double bookkeeping down the road.
The majority of my audience is either a professional or a business owner, entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, we're so excited just to get started in our business and do our business that we really don't even look to some of the, what I'll call the external things, like taxes and accounting and software.
Right.
We start off with the simple things, and the simple things are not always the best things to do. And like I say all the time, you have a choice. You either do business or play at doing business. And if you're going to be successful at doing business, then don't play at it and do the things you need to do. So now you decide that you're going to be a CPA, you go, you take your test. Do you go work for a company first, or did you open your own to start?
Well, I worked for a couple companies. I probably about 5 years or so I worked for other people, and then I decided to open my own practice. And through networking and building relationships and client referrals, I was able to build up my practice. I didn't buy a practice from anybody. I started it from scratch.
And she probably started it right with her accounting part. Just saying, it's just a thought. But I think your accounting part started correctly.
I think I'm good.
Okay, good. Let me ask you a question, because this always comes up with all the business people that come through here. They say, and I hate to say it this way, but they say, if I followed every rule where the government wanted me to follow and didn't skate the line where I could, I would be out of business.
That's not true.
Okay.
There are some gray areas, but sometimes when people get a little too aggressive, that's when the IRS comes knocking at their door. You really should try to file an accurate tax return.
And that's okay if you utilize all the deductions that you are entitled to.
Correct.
So therein lies the problem. You, Joe, who has the plumbing company, don't have the input to what deductions you're entitled to or not entitled to, because that's not your business. You might know what faucet to use, okay? But deductions and IRS issues change constantly, I would think.
Right, and you can't come up with deductions just because you don't like what the end result looks like.
So actually hiring a CPA will not only take some of the aggravation, some of the worry away from you, but it actually can save you some money.
Absolutely.
Because your deductions that you might not know about will offset some of the costs. And like you said, the deductions that you think you know about could be quite costly for you in the long run.
Right, because those are not necessarily deductions just because you think
Really?
they're valid. It has to be ordinary and necessary to be a valid business expense. Just because you incur something doesn't make it ordinary and necessary.
Okay, and this is...
So,
we have a lot,
too technical.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs, okay, who, I don't know if we have a lot, but we have a bunch that work from their home.
Right.
Okay? But they're either S-Corps or LLCs or whatever they are. Do the deductions change because you work from home?
Yes. If you're a sole proprietor, you can deduct home office expenses.
Okay.
But if you're an S-Corp and you're working out of your home, you are not allowed to take the home office deduction. That is purely for a sole proprietor. There are differences. Most people don't realize that. They try to take home office on a S-Corp anyway. You know, people try all kind of things. But that's
Eventually you're not
why
gonna
they
get
have
away-
to come to a CPA, because we know what the real rules are.
Right. With that, we're getting to the top of our time. I want to just shut that off. Can you just shut that off, please? What's interesting is that people don't understand, in my opinion, that sometimes a job that you think you can do is really a job best set for somebody else. When it comes to accounting, okay, the amount of time, not that you can't do the job, okay, because I think anybody can almost do any job. It's just that what might take her 2 hours to do will take you 8 hours to do. And what's that extra 6 hours worth to you in dollars?
That's right.
Okay?
Time is money.
Time is money, and frustration. Okay?
That's right.
Now, this is the last question I have to ask you. When something does go wrong, is a CPA partially responsible? How does that work for you guys?
Well, when we prepare a tax return, we do have a responsibility to kind of have a feel-good about the return you're putting together. So if you have red flags, if things start to not make sense to you, you really should be asking more questions. We have a due diligence we need to go through. There are prepared penalties if we file fraudulent returns. So while we're not auditing the information we receive from the clients, we have to make sure that it makes sense so that they don't get audited down the road. For example, I had a guy the other day, speaking of people working from their home, who was sick for a few years, had a lung transplant, did computer work, so he told me, I worked at home, I was very sick, I didn't think I was going to live. Well, after the lung transplant, he recovered, he's doing fine, and now he has to file 5 years of tax returns. And when he found out what he was going to owe the IRS, said, oh, wait a minute, I was driving around, I was going to see clients. Well, you already told me you didn't, so we can't change it after the fact.
Thank you. We get busy here, but go ahead.
That's fine. So we explained to him the ramifications of trying to create deductions that aren't valid, that he has no proof for. He can't provide any mileage information, any clients' addresses. He can't create any type of mileage log. So there's no justification for putting something down there that you've already told me you didn't incur.
Right.
And is going to be a fraudulent return. So we won't file those kind of returns. But that's why a CPA is valuable, because you don't want to get into trouble and hire a CPA to get you out. You want to stay out of trouble to start with.
Right. With that, if people want to utilize your service, how will they reach you?
Well, our phone number is 954-967-6500, and we're located at 2699 Sterling Road, Suite A305 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay, you have a website?
It's www.libermancpa.com, and Liberman is spelled a little differently,
Go ahead.
so it's LIBERMANCPA.com.
With that, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
You got to understand, if you do it right from the beginning, you never have to look back over your shoulders. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.